Hey, how's it going everyone? I hope that you're all having an amazing day. In this video we have a ton to go over, including all of the patch notes for the new Apex Legends Lost Treasures event. These patch notes include things like all of the legend changes, and there are a ton of them. They basically worked on every single legend, as well as some quality of life fixes and some bug fixes, as well as some weapon changes, and we are getting ready to go over all of that. So do me a favor, and if this video helps you out, then help me out by hitting the like button. But without any further ado, let's jump right into it, starting off with all of the legend updates. So let's start off with Lifeline, whose passive was changed entirely. Her Combat Revive now replaces Combat Medic. She can deploy Doc to revive teammates. Doc will deploy a shield and revive Lifeline's teammate, leaving Lifeline free to defend or revive someone else. This fully replaces Lifeline's old passive, including fast heal. So Lifeline will no longer get that extra shield when she's reviving somebody, and she will also not be able to heal herself faster. I'm not 100% sure why they would take out the fast heal, but let's move on to Lifeline's tactical cooldown, which was reduced from 60 seconds down to 45 seconds. So quite a buff there, but you got to think that the tactical's used for an entirely new thing now, so we're just gonna have to see how that works out. But also Lifeline's ultimate was worked on. Apparently Lifeline's care package now contains more items. The care package will contain 3 times more small healing items when it decides to spawn small healing items, and the care package will contain 2 times more attachments when it decides to spawn attachments. Let's move on to Octane, which is the legend that I am most excited to see what they have done with, and apparently his tactical has been changed, so upon activation the stim will remove movement impairing effects, and stim sprinting speed was increased by 10%. So I feel like this was actually really needed, because his stim speed was just barely faster than any other legend's sprint speed, you know? So you're losing health and you're really not gaining any distance on the other legends, you know what I mean? So hopefully this 10% speed increase is going to actually make it to where you can cover some ground with Octane's tactical. And moving on to Octane's ultimate, they made some huge changes, so players can now double jump in mid-air after using Octane's launch pad. Players are able to change their direction easily from the double jump. This is interesting, and I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work out, but I got to tell you, I'm excited. So this could actually be a really good buff to Octane's ultimate ability, and I'm super interested to see how all of this is going to play out. This whole event is like 17 hours from coming out at the time of me recording this, so we are really close to being able to actually jump in-game and experiment with these buffs and nerfs. But let's move on to Revenant, whose tactical was worked on, and now apparently his tactical will cancel Pathfinder mid-grapple and Wraith mid-phase walk attempt before the phase walk activates. And it will also prevent Mirage cloaked revive, Mirage decoy control activation, and Lifeline combat revive. So Revenant definitely got a buff with his tactical there, and now has a lot more room for some outplay potential, and I'm excited to see some Revenant mains pulling off some crazy ability shutdown plays. So another huge change for Revenant was his ultimate, and they removed the range on his death totem, and this just adds to how powerful the death totem is, because there's been a couple times in matches where we could have definitely pushed a team using the death totem, but got cut off by that range that it allows you to go. So this is going to be even more exciting to see how teams are taking advantage of this, especially in ranked gameplay. Moving on though to Krypto, who had his tactical worked on. Apparently the deploying of the Krypto drone now takes only 1.5 seconds, down from 2.5 seconds, and his ultimate, the EMP, is now going to be disabling Watson's pylons. Loba also got worked on. Her tactical, Burglar's Best Friend, will no longer be intercepted by Watson's interception pylon, and her ultimate, Black Market Boutique, will now only pick up 1 stack of ammo rather than the 1 stack plus the amount that was required to fill whatever partial stack you had in your inventory. Ultimate Accelerants will now give 20% ultimate charge up from 17.5%. They put that in the Loba category, so I'm guessing that is legend specific. Moving on though to Mirage, his tactical got changed, and you can now hold the tactical button and release it to then auto control the decoys. And the decoys will now also say lines when they are shot, possibly to let you know that one of them got shot. I'm not 100% sure. But his passive got changed, so when Mirage is cloaked, Mirage's hollow emitters will be visible to players that are less than 5 meters away. Hopefully this helps out with the invisible revives that are going on. And they also changed how the skydive mechanic works for Mirage, and it will now create decoys for the entire squad when skydiving with your squad, which is absolutely insane. It's going to be wild to just see how many decoys are being spit out of some of these Mirage teams. But moving on to Gibraltar, who got his fast heal granted inside the dome shield slowed down from 25% to 15%. So you're only going to be healing at a 15% faster speed, which is a good nerf there. And Caustic also got a change. Enemies are now apparently able to cancel Caustic's barrel by shooting it before it's fully inflated. This is great. Caustics right now are a complete and total pain to finish off if they're just holding down a building and they're doing it properly with all of their gas. There's been a few times where Caustic has just completely blocked my entire team from getting into the building because of how much gas he has going off in there. And this will at least give teams the ability to counterplay the Caustic's gas traps. So moving on though to some Wattson changes, they say that the intent of these changes was to create openings where enemies were able to breach Wattson's position. It is still possible for Wattson players to hold a position with a trophy indefinitely, but that should come at a cost of using ultimate accelerants. So Wattson pylons will now last for 90 seconds, and Wattson can now have up to 3 pylons out at a time. And she can also stack 2 ultimate accelerants per inventory slot. So that kind of ties hand in hand with them wanting you guys to be using the ultimate accelerants to keep your pylons going in a specific area indefinitely, because right now once you lay a pylon, it is only going to be there for 90 seconds, whereas in right now I believe it's there indefinitely until it is shot down. Moving on though to the probably most anticipated changes, which is the changes coming to Wraith. So they say that increasing Wraith's tactical cooldown has proven to be ineffective at curbing her exceedingly high win rate and kill rate. So these changes are meant to de-incentivize Wraith players from using Phase Walk as a get out of jail free card and move it into more of a repositioning and scouting ability. So let's move on to the changes that they made. Phase Walk now takes 1.25 seconds to enable, and it was 0.4 seconds. So that's more than 3 times the amount of time that it used to take for it now to start up. And during this time, Wraith will receive a 20% move slow. So it's kind of going to be like what happens when Loba uses her bracelet, which is fitting if we're going to leave Loba's delay on with her bracelet. So they say that while in Phase Walk, Wraith now gets a 30% movement speed boost. So she'll be moving a little bit faster once she finally does get into the Phase Walk. And while in Phase Walk, Wraith can now see other players while in the void. So this will help. This is one of the main reasons I don't like playing Wraith, but this will help players, you know, keep control of what's going on around them. And also they buffed it to where Phase Walk now lasts 4 seconds from 3 seconds, and the Phase Walk cooldown is now down to 25 seconds from 35 seconds. Phase Tunnel, they decreased the distance for portal placement by 25%. So overall, I would say that this is more of a side grade than anything. And the one thing that really got nerfed was just the fact that Wraiths were able to basically tactical ability out of any near-death situation and reposition themselves into a situation where they could heal or readjust or whatever. But now it is going to take 1.25 seconds for that to actually boot up and for Wraith to actually get into the mode where she is unshootable. And also this ties into Revenant's ability because he also will be able to use that, which would then cancel Wraith's Phase Walk. So if he manages to hit Wraith with his tactical ability within that 1.25 seconds, then it's going to end up canceling her tactical ability, which again is really good. It's kind of diversifying the legends and giving them all a chance to shine, really. But let's move on to weapon slash loot changes, and the first one that I want to talk about is zip lines. So something really big is happening with zip lines during this update, and it is a cooldown will be applied to re-grabbing zip lines without touching the ground. And this cooldown is going to increase each time the player disconnects and re-grabs the zip line. The cooldown will reset when the player touches the ground. So basically what this is going to do, it's going to stop players from using the zip line as a method of transportation and then spam jumping on the zip line to make it harder for them to hit. This is actually a really big change because zip lines up to this point have never been changed, I don't think, and you've always been able to jump off and then reattach yourself to it as a way to avoid getting shot. But apparently now you'll only be able to do that a limited amount of times before you end up just falling off the zip line. So definitely be careful if you are ziplining across a gap. But let's also move on and talk about the Havoc Rifle, which was changed, and they greatly increased the horizontal recoil in the initial shots of a burst, and they decreased the magazine size from 32 to 28. Now, this is a really good change because it probably still keeps the Havoc in a very strong weapon category, but increasing that horizontal recoil is going to increase the skill gap, and also decreasing the magazine size from 32 to 28 is going to help out a little bit because it really only takes like 6 of those bullets landing to kill somebody anyways. But moving on to Sentinel changes. So the rechamber time is reduced from 1.75 seconds to 1.6 seconds, and the energized duration is from 90 seconds to 120 seconds. So an overall buff to the Sentinel. We're just going to quickly go over these 3 quality of life fixes. So starting off, teammates can now ping a friendly Caustic trap, and also there is a new health bar for when users are in Revenant's shadow form, as well as map rotation times are now even between Kings Canyon and World's Edge. I'm not 100% sure if by the rotation times they mean by the clock and the way it all counts down, because I know that Kings Canyon right now is in a really weird spot where it will take 2.5 minutes for the circle to start closing, but then it will take 30 seconds for the circle to close, and that's just completely out of proportion. In my opinion, it should take, it should take a lot less time for the circle to start closing and a little bit more time for it to close. I'm not saying the time between circles should be any different. I'm just saying the proportion of the timing between the circles closing and the circles starting to close is completely off balance. So I'm not 100% sure if that's what they mean by that. We'll just have to jump in and see when this event does come out tomorrow. Other than that, that's all of the information I have. There is a bunch of bug fixes on here, but this video is already getting longer than I had anticipated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a link in my description to the web page that goes over all of this information if you want to read over the bug fixes yourself. Other than that, I hope you all had an amazing day. I'm out.